Okay. All right.
I wish we had a paper copy of the agenda. We don't have paper copies of the agenda, do we? She usually prints those for us. Yeah. Okay.
Did you want one made for you?
No, that's okay.
Because
You can
she
add.
has a copy, she could go make you a copy.
I just want a piece of paper. Can I just have, does anybody have a piece of paper? I can
For
have?
notes?
Yes, perfect. Thank you, that's all I need. I'm good. Thank you.
Mrs. Hanson.
Still have a better face for radio than I do.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I'm gonna call the July 13th, 2020 School Board Meeting of Yellow Medicine East ISD 2190 to order. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is roll call of board members. Start with Mr. Corner.
Jeremy Corner.
Amanda Lisi.
Sharon Rupp.
Sonia Peterson?
Jeremy LeBlanc. Ron Winter.
Thank you. Next item is approval of the agenda. I do not have any additions or corrections. So is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is reading of the Wyoming mission statement, and I have that in front of me. Our mission is to provide a caring environment of high expectations that prepares every student for a successful future and instills the value of learning. Next item is public address to the Board of Education.
There was no items submitted to me via email.
Okay, no items submitted, so we'll move on to consent agenda, item number 7. So we're looking at item 7.1. So we'll count 7.1.1, 7.1.2, and 7.1.3. I think the other items will take one at a time. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Jeremy. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is 7.2, board organization. We will need to authorize our financial procedures and personnel. So is that Mr. Schneider, is that something that,
You know what, in looking at this, you could approve all of 7.2 at one time.
can we? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we'll go with 7.2.1, 7.2.2, 7.2.3, 7.2.4, 7.2.5, 7.2.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 0.10, and 0.11, all as one motion. So there's a motion to approve all of those financial procedures and personnel.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 8, reports. We'll start with Mr. Schneider and the district report.
So I have quite a bit to discuss here tonight, so feel free to stop me kind of after each one and ask questions here. So staff hiring, the only real change we've had so far is Jill Fry has resigned. She is an MVCC paraprofessional. That's why we don't take action on that. She's employed by the MVCC. So we'll table that at this point until we see kind of what the scenario is and what our needs might be going forward. I can't say that we will or won't need that, but we won't wait too long if we're going to fill that. We have 2 additional ELA candidates. One has been interviewed, and I believe, Ryan, you're setting up an interview later this week with the second one. Only one of those 2 is a ELA certified teacher. The other one is uncertified, but someone we thought might be a good fit for this. I don't have any action for that yet tonight because we want to finish those interviews, but you may hear something by the end of the week, I'm anticipating. And we have one person that has expressed interest in our industrial technology position to date, and he is actually an airplane mechanic, but he does do handyman work on the side. So we don't have that filled either. So those 2 positions are still sitting there. Any questions about that in terms of staffing? All right, next item is calendar flexibility. So I'm again asking for a little more flexibility with the calendar. I think part of the problem was I didn't give you enough information last month. Really what I'm talking about is 1 or a maximum of 2 days before school starts to kind of play out these different scenarios. And I'll talk about those different scenarios when I get to the fall planning update. But I would do that in conjunction with the staff, moving some professional development days. So a couple days we have to play with. We have our fall pre-service. We have 3 days of fall pre-service. We could use one of those days and shift that to earlier in August when the administrators can meet with these teachers and look at their individual classrooms and how that could be impacted by the scenario. We won't know the scenario until April 27th, or till April. July 27th, the week of July 27th. So, another day they could use is possibly parent-teacher conferences, but all of this would be coordinated in conjunction with our EMYME, because that is something we have approved. So what I'm basically asking you for is approval to change staff development days, not student contact days. So concerns, questions about that?
Does that have to be a motion item for?
Well, the problem is we approved the calendar. And so I would recommend that we put it on there to authorize me, and you can say the number of days. I'm not going to tell you what your motion should be. It's up to you. You could say up to or whatever, but I would add that to the action items if that's how you feel.
And this wouldn't move any student contact days, is that what you're?
No, it would not move any student contact days. Thoughts? I mean, you wanna add that to an action item or reservations?
I would just like the principal's feeling on that.
Well, one thing about, from the elementary point of view, you know, when we start talking about social distancing and what our classrooms are gonna look like, which, you know, we've done walkthroughs, we have maps to, you know, square footage, but I now need to get my staff in, and it would be really difficult to have 45 of them in at a time, and so, for example, I would love to be able to have my kindergarten teachers come in and say, okay, let's take a look at your room, here's where, you know, because for kindergarten, we're now gonna be going to tables and chairs versus floor seating. How is this classroom going to look, and what in here do we need to put in storage? That, and because to me, in a teacher's mind, we need to have our room physically set up, then we can start thinking curriculum. And for a lot of our primary staff, that's gonna be some changes, and they need that time to be able to do that. So to me, having that flexibility is so important with teachers this, in August, you know, or even in July, whatever Mr. Schneider thinks, but.
You, Mr. Snyder, having like dates of our staff development, like potentially, like, you know, for example, like the Friday of, like traditionally we have off like Dance Line Friday or Mervet dates or. anything
Yeah, I
like
do
that.
have some of those dates already kind of outlined
Yeah,
there.
we would be doing the same thing, traditionally looking at what spaces we can create, what spaces we can't create. You know, like Lisa said, we've gone through every room, we look how many kids can potentially fit in a room like this. We potentially could fit 15 high school kids in. If we did hybrid, then how do we divide classes? How do we look at supervision? You know, we're looking at areas such as the auditorium, the little theater, the band choir room, the junior high wrestling room, or potentially we could have full classes based on the 6 foot and roughly 25 kids into that. So starting to get the ideas of flip-flopping and how to do it, but so there's gonna be lots of juggling that's gonna need to take place, and just to make sure that we kind of have a vision and a goal of saying, okay, this is how we'd like to do, if we need to come in with the hybrid model, or all back, or the other way too, so,
So it just gives you that extra day or two to plan the classrooms
yeah.
for whatever possibilities you may need to see.
Because that kind of is a domino effect, so as a
Sure.
teacher, you think about that, and that might be the end of July, and now you go home, and it's like, okay, now I have to do A, B, and C, versus waiting till fall. I just think it will really help have everybody be more prepared and feel prepared, because they have that time.
They'll have time. Mr. Schneider did a good job kind of outlaying administratively, you know, some of the things we had talked about potentially moving forward. Gives our staff time to think about, okay, how maybe does this look in my classroom, and then it gives us time to maybe operate. Just say, okay, yeah, we can do this, or I don't know. You know, there's some things too that they've thought of too that we maybe haven't thought of yet, so.
And you feel a couple days is enough to make these types of plans?
Well, I think that's where we start. We have another board meeting there in August. We may have to ask for more at that time. Or I'll have to communicate with you folks that, hey, this wasn't enough, can we, but don't know how to predict that.
So calendar-wise, what dates could these potentially be?
I think what, I want to talk with, I want to collaborate with the EMYME on which dates that is. So if we meet with the teacher group and MSEA, the paraprofessionals and non-certified teachers group, and kind of look at that and see what is a good day to use.
So it could be earlier in August versus piggybacking them onto.
Correct.
Before.
Yeah, really what I see, so I probably wasn't clear enough, I see us taking one of those, I'll just grab this day, one pre-service day, and putting it in the beginning of August. And this is now getting into my fall planning update too, so some of this is commingling. So say there's a bunch of stuff in a classroom, and we need to get it out of that classroom to try and utilize every square inch that we can. I need time to get that out. I need to find storage space, which I do have some identified.
I guess, yeah, that was my thought, if we're just adding these to the dates we already have a week or two before school, that's probably not enough time to get.
No, it is not. No, we're, really, the week we thought about was the first week of August. The problem is, I'd like to say the last week of July, because that gives us more time, including Francis, more time to try and resolve some of these issues, but I don't know when they're gonna tell us. Right now, they have a little bit of latitude on what they can tell us, and for a small district as us, that's hard for us to grasp or to handle.
So you would have them come back in this day at beginning of August, end of July, and then that would be.
In lieu of.
In lieu of another,
Yep,
day
and in
during
lieu
the
of a
year.
day that I would try and collaborate with the staff, especially the teachers, that would this be a good use of this time instead?
so they would still have the same number of days in their
Correct?
contract.
Yep,
Oh,
we're
in their
not
contract.
adding
We're not adding
number
to
of
their
days
contract.
to their contract.
You know, and realistically, some of our staff development days might not even be able to happen. You know, so I think as
That's
we
true.
get into fall, naturally, we would be able to identify those days, kind of like parent-teacher conferences. I mean, we're gonna do something, but I don't think that maybe fall would look the same that it has in the past.
No, it won't.
And you know, there's hours there to play with as well.
So if you approve it tonight, the first thing I would do tomorrow is contact, I've got a team that I meet with to collaborate and say, hey, when can we sit down and take a look at what day it would be, invite the administrators, and we'll figure out what would work.
So
When
can
I
we
say
make this
sit
an
down,
action
that could
item
be-
tonight,
Yeah, I think so.
so we can get going on it?
If you wanna make it an action item, you, to make a
So
motion
it
to
wouldn't
make
be
it.
all staff at one time, it'd be groups, so. it'd be-
Correct,
Yeah.
yep, because she can't have the
Right,
kindergarten,
that's-
first grade, well, she might have those two groups there at the
Right.
same time, but kindergarten and third grade.
Cause I would wanna be able to
Right.
you know, talk to them personally, walk through their room, have them be there with a couple other staff members so they can bounce ideas off of. Maybe there's, you know, if you like, Mr. Schneider and I spent a lot of time in one of the kindergarten rooms. You know, there's a lot of things in a kindergarten room that maybe might have to go into storage, but maybe when they're collaborating, they can share that with someone else. Just because we're gonna need that space so the kids can be here.
The classrooms are gonna be quite tight to get that 6-foot spacing.
I would like to make a motion to give you, to allow Mr. Schneider to alter the staff duty days as adopted as a calendar as needed.
Up to 2 days, 1 day.
Up
We gotta
to-
put a day in.
What are you thinking, 2 days?
I think
More
up
than
to
that?
2 days,
Up to
and
2
then I'll
days?
have to consult with you again. if
Okay,
that's-
up to 2 days?
Don't we need a motion to make it an action item first?
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm making that motion
to make.
To
that-
make it an
to
action.
make it an action item, okay?
Second.
Okay. Okay, there's a motion and a second, and we can fit this in at item 9.16. Does that make sense? Under new business?
All
Okay,
right.
there's a motion and a second to make this an action item. Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries, so we'll make that item 9.16.
And I
Okay,
think
sorry.
it's best to table it to decide it, and then you can listen to the rest of my report here. So, one thing that has come out in the media quite a bit is this idea of 50% occupancy. It's maximum occupancy, and last week on our conference call with the commissioner, she talked about what that meant. That's 50% of maximum occupancy based upon the fire marshal limits. Well, even if we put all of our K-12 students in BRE, we might get close to 50% maximum occupancy for that building. So we know we're okay that way unless they change the rules of the game. So it's not based upon a classroom. So fire marshal uses 20 square feet for each person in a room. We do not have to live by that. What will be the limiting factor is the 6-foot social distancing. Or in some documents you see 3-foot radius. That's actually what they told us this summer for our summer school program, was a 3-foot radius. So that's maximum occupancy. Distance learning plan you'll approve tonight. So that's been kind of developed, or that's on there to be approved. We talked about the days this fall that we'd like to use to kind of not only look at their rooms, but as both of the principals suggested, how does this look different? How do we get feedback from our staff? And they sometimes, not sometimes, oftentimes have the best ideas because they're thinking about how their day-to-day will work. So the guidance we've been given, though, is that if a parent or a family chooses to do distance learning, we will have to support them in that. That could be a big challenge for us, so keep that in mind when I get to a later discussion item. Cassie Suter, Nurse Cassie Suter, is keeping a inventory of us of all of the items that we expect we will use this fall, including masks, shields, gloves, sanitizer, dispensers for that sanitizer, cleaners, and thermometers. And so she's on top of that. We have ordered a bunch. We will likely order some more, depending. I'm afraid to wait to order them until we find out what the scenario is, because I'm afraid they won't show up. So, staff members today were told to plan on teaching with a mask. We would provide them with one mask. That's our current plan. They should plan on teaching it. That doesn't mean we're committed to it. Students at this point, we haven't made a decision. We'll kind of wait and see. Sounds like the governor this week is going to make a statement about mask and mask wearing, and so that might impact our decision. Technology enhancements and improvements. So far we've received 163 new Chromebooks, and they're currently in the process of getting deployed. Those will be student Chromebooks. We'll take the old ones back and we'll inventory them, and like I said in the past, that inventory will come to you folks and we'll decide what to do with them if we don't see a use for them. Little value in them, but it is something for us to consider. Staff laptops are here and they are in the process of being distributed. Part of that is the reason I put that into our fall planning update is because that's going to impact our distance learning. Now each staff member will have a laptop instead of having to take home their desktop. I did give the staff members an update today at 10 o'clock. So I believe we got some good questions during that time, and they've been kind of addressed here as I'm talking to you. We did complete a staff survey. There were some staff with concerns about this fall. I emphasized today during my update that if they have concerns about their health or coming back to school, they should contact Tara or I. They can contact their building principals, but ultimately it's got to come back to Tara and I to make that decision. We do have a protocol we will use for that. Communication. Well, communication is going to be the key here in how we communicate. So I will plan to communicate our plans and any changes in those plans just like we do weather announcements. Now you folks will get information ahead of other people too, but please don't hesitate to give me a call if you have questions or you know that I should be addressing this and you're hearing it in the community. Let me know. Quite honestly, it's going to be hard for you folks to know all those answers. I would encourage you to direct them to me. It's going to be a beast, and for you folks to understand it completely as well as I do would be challenging. Childcare, at this point, we don't know what the expectation for childcare will be. That's a big obstacle for us in terms of how we can get that manned. If we're required to provide tier 1 employees with that childcare, and we're in a hybrid model, what space, what does that look like, and who mans it? So that's going to be one of our obstacles. So with that in mind, I thought I would kind of start a conversation tonight about what might be additional staffing that we could use or what we could see using in the future, and for you to think about and talk to me about right now. So one of the big ones I see is a technology integration or a distance learning coordinator. I don't know what you would call it, but someone that would coordinate between that family and the teacher and help the teacher kind of manage that. Be a tough spot to fill, but I think internally I can think of a few people that would be good at it. If I did that, then I have to go back and backfill their position. And I don't know how I would do that yet, but I think that could be a huge advantage to us. I know this brings up concerns with the cost of that position. We would be eligible for grant funding for any additional costs related to COVID. And this would be an example of something that we could recoup that cost from.
So is this someone that you would want to see for the elementary level as well as the high school level?
Yeah, they would have, we can't afford to hire two. We have to hire
One for
one.
the whole district?
And we have a couple people on staff that have that talent set that could do that.
Mhm. So like a liaison for parents?
Yeah, and they wouldn't
That
just
person.
do that with those, they would also help teachers in how do you teach in person and yet manage the distance learning piece of it. Maybe it's ability to record themselves or what that looks like in their classroom and help them navigate that.
Did you get a lot of feedback on those surveys of parents sent back for thinking that this would be something that would be a good idea then?
The majority of people want in person, but even if it's 10 people, 10 students at home, managing those
Right.
will take effort. So if I'm a teacher, if I teach 3rd grade and I spend a full day teaching, and then I have to do distance learning for my student in my classroom also, that was on my roster, that's quite a bit of extra work.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
But maybe it looks different too. Maybe it's a matter, I know we have talked as an admin team that one model, especially popular in middle schools and high school, is that the teacher is teaching live and the student receiving distance learning has to get on there at that time. But that kind of tethers the teacher to the desk area, the camera right here. And it requires a different skill set too. We know our distance learning wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good for what we had to do at that time. But this could be someone that helps with that also. Thoughts, questions? I know I'm springing this on you, so I understand.
I definitely see how it would be a good thing to have.
Principals, so do you guys,
Yeah, can
you
you
folks
weigh in
want to
a
weigh
little
in too?
You know, one thing I think of like a 3rd grade teacher, and that's a perfect example is, and I've actually already had a few parents reach out to me and say, regardless of what the governor says, can we choose to do distance learning and would you still provide an education for my kids? Well, the way I read it, and I think Rich had said this earlier, is we have to do that. And so how do you do that and provide an effective education when that teacher is already working with 20 kids in a completely new situation under social distancing, you know, a whole new set of rules? And we want to make sure that we're taking care of all of our kids to the best of our ability. And so this person, I could see, they might have a third grader, they might have a kindergartner, they could have a couple sixth graders, you know, they could have it could be a wide range. I even see him being a liaison between, you know, with the teacher too, to say, okay, you know, Mrs. Runia, how are you teaching math this week? You know, what's your objective? How are you doing this? And they would be able to assist the families with that as well.
I think the only question I would throw out with this is, you talk taking somebody in-house, and I know the last time I looked, people aren't just running the door to fill positions. So, who, how, what would
How
we
would I fill it?
accomplish this?
I think that would probably be one of the determining factors, is can I backfill that position? Can I cover that position somehow?
Are you talking certified staff
Yeah.
doing this?
I mean, I'm just trying to think of areas of our staff right now where we could,
Where we have a lot of applicants, you mean?
where we could make this work. I mean, yes, it'd be easy to sit and say we would consider this if there was an outside source to come in to help with these duties, but I mean, I just struggle pulling out a qualified teacher, staff member to do this, and then we gotta go back out and try and find somebody to come in that can fill that role during this tough time. I mean, this ain't just no ordinary walk into a normal situation. I mean, this is, do I think we need it? I think it's a great idea, but I'm just, I mean, obviously I can't ask who you would consider doing it, but I'm just questioning how we'd fill both roles. We could be talking 10 kids, we could be talking 40 kids.
Yeah.
And if it's 40 kids, is this one person gonna be able to do it?
And how are you gauging that? Like Lisa was saying, you know, she's already had a family reach out to her and say, if we can provide distant learning. Are we gonna say by August 15th, if you want distant learning provided for your child, you have to let us know, so then we have some kind of, you know, where you have 100 kids in the district that says, I want distant learning, you know, and then you have only one person, this one liaison, and then what? You know, is there gonna be a deadline for that if we're able to go back into the classroom?
Well, I think we would just ask parents to let us know by
By a
X
certain
date.
date, okay.
But I think there's no way we will know until we know what the plan
Right.
is. I mean, I would say 95% of our parents, well, that's probably a little high, between 90 and 95% of our parents want the students back in the classroom. For a variety of reasons, including the quality of the education, but also the social and emotional health of the student. I mean,
The mental health for the student and the parents,
yeah.
yes.
No, well, we laugh at that, but it's
It's
true.
true, it's
Most
true.
parents don't
Right.
have the skill set.
No,
I mean,
most parents didn't go to school to be teachers. And
yeah,
it's, you
or
know,
to
for
teach
nothing
physics,
to
or to
over.
support their kids in
Yes.
physics. And many of our parents, you know, a lot has changed in education since we went through.
Yes.
It looks different.
Yes.
I mean, we have a
But
lot of
that-
parents that are great at it, don't get me wrong.
Oh, right. But then my question too is, if 2 weeks into the school year, if we go back into the classroom and then we have parents that say, okay, wait, I want to switch to distant learning, is that going to be an option as well? Or do they have that, you know, ability to switch, and then, you know, we'll have to look at it, obviously, we'll have to look at it then. If we're getting too many people going that way, we'll have to look at,
Yeah, I
Maybe find
really
someone
see
else,
that
maybe
as,
go into.
as happening.
Yes.
Okay,
I agree
I
with
do
you.
see that's going to be an in and out, but we can't force a deadline on them.
right, no, exactly, but just, if you have any idea kind of thing. You
Yeah.
know, heads up. You almost need that. I mean, our teachers need that too, because I'm sure it would be a very hard transition for the teachers. That's for a
Well, you
moment as well.
even look at, okay, so that's students, staff members the same way, all right? Now I'm, whatever, had a health crisis or whatever it
Right.
is that caused me to change my thoughts on being able to teach in person. A neighboring district has sent out a survey to ask their teachers to sign it. What are you planning to do this fall?
So with what she's saying, I'm just thinking in my head, so July 27th, let's say the governor comes and says, okay, we will start the school year in school. Are we gonna have all 3 plans ready, prepared, and in place? Because we could be through the second plan and the third plan by the first day of school. I mean, I think that's very safe to say from July to September, whatever our first day of school is, we could be all the way to the third plan already.
Yeah, that's correct. That, Plan 1 in person and Plan 3, distance learning. I don't want to speak for the principals, but those to me are a lot more black and white
Yeah,
than that hybrid.
right.
Because the hybrid can look so many different, just to say hybrid.
Yeah,
50% capacity, maximum capacity. Well, does that mean every other day? So I just heard of a school district up by the cities that's they're planning with their students. A through K are coming to school Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday. And L through Z are Tuesday, Thursday, and every other Friday. That's a big impact on our families.
Very.
If you come from a two household income family, not all families are able to work from home. And so then if they have to come here because maybe they're a tier 1 employee, then that impacts us with childcare too. There's a great deal of,
so how does that work with the teachers that have children as we go back? I mean,
well, teachers are actually tier 2 employees. So in their order, the last executive order, we only had to provide it for tier 1 employees.
right,
So we wouldn't have to provide it. But remember, there are employees, I need them.
I
them.
agree too.
And I bet I said that 5-6 times today I need you folks.
Exactly.
And that's what I mean. I need them healthy, I need them here emotionally, but physically too.
Well, I guess back to where we started the question, I mean, the only thing I was asking is I'm very nervous with where we're at, not knowing who you're talking about, pulling a qualified teacher out of the classroom to do this, for one, not knowing where it's going, and for two, not knowing how we're gonna refill it.
Yeah. And I don't think, it would not be my intent to hire someone for this position at all costs. You know what I mean? I think we can't say this is the only thing we need.
Right.
We have to reach a fair balance between, I don't know if there's an elementary teacher sitting out there looking for an opportunity or not.
But we don't know until we,
Advertise.
advertise and,
Correct.
so
And,
we kind of have to do that.
So that's
we
before
have
or after we pull one of our teachers out, so.
Well, whatever Rich thinks is
No,
best. and
no, I
whatever
wouldn't
he's-
do it that way.
Okay.
My intent is I would seek out internal candidates
Sure.
to fill this position.
Yeah.
Look at them, have the heart to heart with them that say, oh, okay, I think you're a good candidate, but understand, I gotta see if I can fill this position. So I'm going to advertise or reach out and see. Now, will it always be a highly qualified, that's the old term, a fully certified teacher? Might not be. But again, we have to weigh out what's the impact of having that teacher in there.
So your thinking or your intent would be to pull from within in terms internally to fill this and then backfill?
Correct.
Instead of trying to.
For a one-year solution.
Instead of finding someone outside to just come in and fill this liaison position.
Correct. I just don't see that talent set, because it needs to be somebody with the teaching. I think too, the ability to have a relationship with our staff. They know this person, they know their skill set is a valuable characteristic.
So you have some ideas already?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll talk about it tomorrow again at our admin meeting, but yeah, we've talked about it.
Okay.
But I didn't want to pick up the phone and call them, get them all excited, and you folks have no knowledge of it.
Well, how is it not hard to be concerned? If you're concerned with putting them in this role, hiring somebody to put them in that role, but you're not concerned with putting them in the classroom, I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there too.
I'm sorry, but, I mean,
Okay, so it could be what we're asking them or the level we're asking them to teach.
Well, I think through what we're going through, I'm not questioning what you're saying by levels, but I think even for the teachers that are in the classrooms, whether it's with kids in person or trying to work with the kids during distant learning or trying to figure out how to make the hybrid work, how does this work with somebody that we just recently hired? And I mean, I think it's a valid point to ask.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm looking at.
No, that's a good point, and I think we'll struggle with that with any of our new teachers too. So if we come in this fall and all of a sudden they say we're distance learning day one, I don't even know how a second grade teacher who hasn't had some contact with first graders is going to do that.
Right.
That's going to be a challenge for all of us. But I think, or what I'm hearing is, we don't want to make this decision at all costs. We need to find the right candidate for that position.
Yeah, that'd be fair.
And they would be hired under the idea that this is a one-year position, because that teacher would return to the classroom.
So what do you need from us? So
Well, if you're willing to, again,
Make
make a motion.
Make a motion?
So we're adding staff. We're
We
adding,
could add staff, depending upon the candidate pool.
What are the grant dollars that would backfill this financially?
So we are, what's the grant? It's not GEAR. What's the other one? CARES?
The
CARES Act.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
CARES Act funding. We're getting that, and it's actually based upon our title appropriation, and we have to apply for it. We would basically, it's to cover the additional costs related to COVID
It's pretty-
implementation.
And it's a pretty broad application of how you can
Yeah,
apply those
it's
dollars.
about, what is it, 240, right? Both of them combined, gears and that?
The CARES one's like 139,000.
Oh, was it?
I'm not sure about the other one.
Okay. So, 139,000.
This GEAR, what does that stand for?
Governor's enhancement, education,
That stands for.
something.
It's COVID related?
Yeah,
Okay.
that one is supposed to target technology.
Okay.
And I think the 140 is the total.
Of the two of them?
The two of them.
Okay. Oh, and that grant is not due until June of next year. And so what it's basically, they're giving us the latitude is to incur costs and then write the grant to fit the incurred cost. So like, for example, masks and the other PPE expenses would fit under the CARES one.
Well, I'd make a motion to move this to an action item.
I'll second that.
So there's a motion to move, adding additional staff such as a distance learning coordinator, to an action item. And we can add that as 9.17. So there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Sharon, who was the second? I'm sorry, I missed
Is that me?
Sonia?
That's me.
When would we know on the grant, whether we got it or not, to be able to cover this position?
Well, I don't know how to put it in words. They're basically saying, fill out the paperwork. You'll get it.
I think you have to apply by like May 31st or something of next year.
Yeah.
And you actually have some time till 2022 to use it.
To spend it.
But you do have to apply by end of next May.
But even though it's mainly for technology, we don't foresee it being a problem.
Just the
covering.
gears is for technology. The rest is for anything COVID related.
I don't have the breakdown in front of me, but I think that part is like 13 or 14,000 and the other is 127
This would fall under technology, wouldn't it?
or something.
This is on
Well,
the
if it
title.
has to do with distant
Okay,
learning, I don't know why.
so-
Why wouldn't?
What we're talking is, it's $124,178.21 for the CARES funding. It's ESSER.
ESSER, yeah.
And then the Governor's Emergency Relief Fund, that's what GEARS stands for, is $15,210.17. So. And it's just channeled through our title funding called SERVS, so. Thank you. So other areas that we could see a greater need, and I'm not asking for any decision on this, are custodial, food service, nursing, and paraprofessional. The custodial, if we're in a hybrid or an in-person, I have no idea what the cleaning protocol they're going to dictate to us will be. Do we wipe down everything 3 times a day, and is that done by a custodian? What is the expectation for cleaning things throughout the day? So that's yet to come. Food service, if you look at different scenarios, if we go to a hybrid plan, one of the ideas we could do is to serve food in classrooms. So that could be our food service. We'll then have to make up packets to get to those classrooms. That could be challenging for them. We might go to an all grab-and-go breakfast format where students only get their breakfast food in classrooms and they eat it in their classrooms. Nursing aid, if depending upon what the screening expectations, if they go beyond, if we have to verify with students what the screening protocol is, at this point we're expecting that parents can do that on their own. I don't know that we're going to have them submit something on a daily basis, simply because of compliance with that could be challenging for us. But the other thing with a nurse too is we're all vulnerable to this. We only have one nurse on staff, and so if Ryan goes down, I can cover for Ryan. If Lisa goes down, I can cover for Lisa. We only have one nurse. So starting next week, we are going to advertise for a substitute or part-time nurse. Not intending to use it, I just want a list of candidates, a pool of candidates. And just to backtrack a little bit, that's also what we're doing with our custodian. We're going to advertise, we are short one custodian because of the retirement of Tim Knutson. We'll advertise for a full-time custodian and part-time custodians in case we need some additional assistance. We might be able to use them either as a substitute or a part-time. And then paraprofessionals, and the big obstacle there could be assistance with childcare. Now we have general education paraprofessionals that, especially in her building, that cover like recess. We may be able to pool that out and figure out childcare. I have told Lisa this. we provided a pretty darn good childcare this last spring. If we go hybrid or even distance learning, it's not likely we're gonna provide that quality of childcare, because we were able to dip into special education paraprofessionals to cover that. So, that won't be what we're doing. So questions about those other areas besides the teaching position with additional staffing?
So the motion we made, are you looking for more latitude than just that one position in that motion?
No, not, because we have an August board meeting. I believe if I can get to that August board meeting, and I just don't want you folks to be surprised that I'm advertising for it. And every fall we advertise for substitutes anyway. But we'll be advertising for those positions no matter what. But I will not ask you to fill them yet. Make sense? Is that logical?
So do we vote on that motion?
You can leave it as 9-7.
9.17.
We didn't vote on it though. We have a motion and a second, but no vote.
Oh, yes, we were at discussion. Yes.
I talk too fast.
So there's a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Okay, so literacy training. With our literacy plan, we are constantly adding tools to our toolbox, and one of them will be a specialized training called Sunday, and that will be paid for through special ed funds. So lots of times we'll develop our literacy plan, and it's district-wide. This is an example of something that will be just available for our special ed teachers to use. In the case, we might have things that aren't working with our students, and so this is another tool for our toolbox.
So how many staff members would be getting that training?
We're working on that right now, but I believe we're gonna ask all case managers to attend if they can make it work. Do we have a date for that yet, Ron?
August 31st. is the
August
date.
31st? And do you know how many of yours have committed?
We have currently 6 of 9, and we're waiting verification for 3.
And-
Nine, 12 of 13 are attending.
It's a expensive program, but it's something that will be available for all of our special ed teachers, and so,
So why are some not committed to taking the training?
because it's August 31st.
We just haven't heard back from yet.
Okay.
We've left messages, emails, and that type of stuff, just haven't got a response from them back.
Okay.
And mine that is not able to has a personal conflict. That's a pretty big personal conflict, but
Would there be availability for them to make up that training?
I think absolutely down the road there could be, yes.
Last month, we tabled our obsolete equipment policy, and, part of that is I haven't had time to commit to doing some investigation on how the two will mesh. So my suggestion is that we run that through the policy committee and have them implement that portion of how to advertise that stuff. All right? Any further questions for me? Sorry, I got kind of long-winded there. But
There's a lot going on.
So-
questions for me?
Back to the fall planning, so come July 27th, the state of Minnesota is gonna pick the plan we start with? Is that my understanding?
Yes. My intuition is telling me that the state of Minnesota is going to say, here's your options, and here's the metrics you're going to use for which option you will use. I don't know what that metric will be.
Pretty vague then.
Yeah, that's why they asked us to prepare 3 plans, but I can tell you, hours and hours on that. It's just a beast. That hybrid learning plan is a big beast. In person, we can figure out. Distance learning, we can figure out. What's hybrid look like?
Need a war room, right?
What's that?
Need a war room and just start.
Yeah,
thinking about
well,
war.
and there's schools developing task force to take a look at that. And that might be our next step, is because I need more people, more input.
What would the purpose of the hybrid be? Because you can only have certain occupancy, but if we could possibly already be below that occupancy number.
So
with
it's
full
the social
students.
distancing, it's the 6 foot. Also, hybrid could be, well, you're sitting here, it's not good, but we know the negative impact on, let's use free and reduced students. Because maybe they don't have Wi-Fi access or adequate Wi-Fi access or tools or support at home. And that's not, in all of this, I'm not taking a shot at any parent. It's a challenge to teach these students. So maybe getting them here, we can provide intensive assistance for certain students there are some students are going to be successful in distance learning, no matter what.
Sure.
And you folks as parents, you can probably attest that maybe even within your own family.
So that 3 foot radius, does that have to be maintained in the hallways during transitioning from classroom to classroom as well? That's my thought.
How are you gonna control that?
Okay,
That's the
what,
problem.
with kindergartners? That would be fun, wouldn't you, Mrs. Hanson?
I think we all get it.
Yeah.
We all get it.
Yeah.
Yep. But here's some other, we can do other things with it. And it's not gonna be popular with students. But I can tell you that some schools have already let out that students will wear masks in the hallways. All right? So get your students ready. As I said to teachers, get yourself ready. You might as well come to that realization that that is what we have to do.
As long as they're wearing it the correct way,
Yeah.
you know, I think that's.
They are
really important as
teenagers
well.
or all the way
right?
down
Oh,
to,
Yeah,
I really don't anticipate K through 5 wearing them.
right.
Because if you look at the data and what CDC is recommending, they're not the ones. They're not going to comply with it, just not necessarily to be smart Alex, where high school kids, middle school and high school kids will be smart Alex about it. But grade school kids, they're just, oh, this is uncomfortable, you know?
Something to
And
play
each
with.
time you touch it, you're decreasing its effectiveness. So you touch it, you're supposed to wash your hands.
One thing I just want to add, I think Jeremy mentioned about the social distancing, we did work pretty hard at that, like during STEAM care. And there were times, you know, it was interesting because the kids just flow into it. You know, ours was, you know, you can't touch each other. You can, and that might not be 6 feet, but it was getting close. So you'd see 20 kids maybe coming over to lunch and it was a really long line. Or the teachers or the parents would split them up into groups of 6 or 7. Now, I'm not saying that maybe when they went down the steps, they didn't get closer, but you could already see with the STEAM care kids, that was in their, how we do things. Because they would automatically, if you would line them up at the door, you know, we might have markers on the ground, or they would just know, I can't stand by Leon. So I was always impressed with how quick our little ones actually adapted to that. Playground is tough. You know, that's a tough one.
But CDC says they don't have to wear them on the playground.
Mhm.
Wash hands before and after going to recess, and they can still use the apparatus. But I'm sure you folks are creative enough, we're gonna come up with other things to do during recess. Maybe they're, what do you call those kits? There's something available through the PE grant, some kits. Remember what?
Well, there's some action kits, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So then, I'm sure maybe this is still to come, but you think about the using hand sanitizer before recess and after, or afterwards. Do they sanitize the equipment then? Between, you know,
so CDC says you're not.
You don't have to,
You don't
huh?
have to. That's why the hand washing before.
Yep.
And part of it is you're not capable.
right,
I mean, we can't
No.
sanitize it. Because we looked at it when we said that there's not going to be any visitors on our playground equipment. We looked at, well, how do we manage that? And so we decided to just close our playground to all visitors.
time will tell.
Those are great questions. And I'm sorry I don't have better answers for all of that, but.
Well, we're doing what we can.
All right.
So our next
that's-
item is 8.2 celebrations and recognitions. I don't see that there were any submitted.
Yeah, she
But
did
I-
submit some, but we'll get them
Okay.
next month. I'm sorry.
Can we do that next month? Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Committee reports. Have we had any committee reports, committee meetings in the last month? I don't think we
I
have.
think so.
I don't think that. So we'll move on to new business, personnel items. We don't have any new hires, from what I can understand. We have to, accept one resignation, the English language arts instructor Sarah DeSmet. So is there a motion to approve the resignation of English language arts instructor Sarah DeSmet?
I'll make that motion to accept the resignation.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 9.2, to renew their membership of Minnesota Rural Education Association, the MREA. Is there a motion to approve our renewal membership of Minnesota Rural Education Association?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 9.3, renewing our membership with Minnesota School Boards Association, the MSBA. Is there a motion to approve that membership?
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is to accept food service bid for the bread and bread products.
Those were attached, correct?
Yep. So, is there a motion to approve the bid from Panagold Baking Company to provide bread and bread products for the 2020 to 2021 school year?
Am I missing him? I don't see him there.
Is it not on
Did
there?
you just see the agenda analysis part
That's
of
all I
it?
see.
Hmm.
You see it in there, Jeremy?
All I see is the agenda analysis.
Yeah, but it's,
That's. Oh, you know what, go to the, is it the, maybe it's the food service prices? No, that's something different.
did you attach the actual bid? Or you just
I-
put it in your agenda analysis?
I didn't do that, so I'll have to look and see if I have a copy in my folder that we usually get. I'm gonna go look on our back thing and so I can give you the numbers, see if it's still back there. Doesn't she sit it in the back there? We're gonna go look.
Okay. Let's have a short pause. actual,
Yeah, I'm just curious, the actual bids and who else.
the
did.
prices that they submitted?
Because there are 3
Okay, the
bids were received.
You hot again? I don't think we dropped it down to like 70 each.
Like 60.
So we received bids back from Pan and Gold. So $1.35, this is just the first one for the pan buns. 3-inch sliced, $1.35 a dozen, and then the other one came from it's all Pan and Gold.
See? What's that?
Carl's Bakery, at $3.50 a dozen. So if I go down the lists, Carl's, so the first one was pan buns, 3-inch. Carl's was $3.50, Pan and Gold was $1.35. Pan buns, 4-inch, Carl's was $4.25, Pan and Gold was $1.35. Whole grain sandwich bread sliced, Carl's Bakery was $2.95 for a 1.5 pound loaf, and it was $1.30 from Pan and Gold. Small sub buns, Carl's was $5.95, and Pan and Gold was $1.75. Hot dog buns, Carl's was $3.50, and Pan and Gold was $1.35. And pull apart dinner rolls, Carl's was $3.15 per dozen, and Pan and Gold was $1.35. So in all cases, Pan and Gold was cheaper. If you'd like, I can pass these around. We'll look at 'em.
So is there a motion to accept the lower bid from Panagold Baking Company in St. Cloud to provide bread and bread products for the 2020-21 school year?
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is to accept food service bid for milk and milk products.
We
Yeah.
only received a bid from Lando Lakes Prairie Farms, and so,
Is that who we've used in the past?
yes.
Okay, so is there a motion to accept the food service bid from Land O'Lakes for milk and milk products for the 2020 to 2021 school year?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, there's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second, any other discussion?
Is there no other companies out there? Or
We sent it to Kemp's, and Kemp sent us back a letter that says, we regret that we will not be submitting a milk bid for the 2021 school year due to your equipment needs. They would like to remain on the bidders list as circumstances may change in the future.
Equipment needs?
Yeah.
What would you think that would mean?
Well, they have to provide a cooler.
Okay.
Would it
Okay.
be worthwhile to get a price of just the milk and then find out what that cooler cost is? I
You
don't
would
like,
think
I
that
don't
they
like
would be
just
pretty
giving it
close
down
in
to just
price.
one person and they kind of
And,
You know, it's hard to keep them honest when they're, might be the same one every year.
yeah, we only, down at Blue Earth, we only got one bid too.
I'd be curious as to
You know,
what this
in milk.
equipment costs.
I have no idea.
I think those coolers are expensive.
But they have to provide it, you said?
Yes, that's
Okay.
right. I believe that's right in our, what it says here. Coolers needed, quantity 3, 16-case coolers, and quantity 1, 8-case cooler. And that's so we have enough so that they don't have to come every day.
Okay. Good question?
I think at the elementary, they maintain them too, so we don't have to worry about making sure they don't all freeze and use all them out. So I think it puts some of that responsibility back on them.
Sure. And it's their product.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
For future ones, I'd like to just see what the
Okay.
apples of just the milks would be without the equipment, just for curiosity.
Yep. We'll put that down.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is to approve our food service prices for the 2020 to 2021 school year. I believe those were listed on board book.
Yeah, I put the last 2 years, and then I'm recommending a nickel raise. Each year that we do not raise the price of our lunches, we end up having to supplement the food service program from our general fund. We already supplement it for our K through 3 breakfast.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the food service prices for the 2020 to 2021 school year?
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion, is there a second? I will second. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
When was the last time we did an increase? Before?
I have no idea, I just have the 3 years there, I didn't go that far back.
I think it's been, I mean.
Since before we were on.
That's what I was thinking. I don't think we've ever
Mhm.
approved an increase, so, you know, I think that's pretty good for 4 years, no increase.
We have to do what's called PLE tool, it's a federal spreadsheet that you're required to do. And it's about a 10-page document, but bottom line is it tells you if you have to increase prices, because where they want us to be is at 309 average price. They use the October data, and right now we're at 278 average price for
Sure.
a full price meal. And they require a 10-cent increase unless you have other funds that go into each meal price. So for example, our state contributes 12 cents per meal. Not every state does. So that goes into that, you know, you add that to the 278, now you're up to 290. The other thing is that we do transfer from the general fund. If we did not transfer from the general fund, we would be required to increase 10 cents. And like Rich said too, every year that we don't increase, it compounds, you know, so for example, in 2018-19, we just had over 40,000 full price meals. So a nickel will bring in about $2,000 a year. A dime would bring in about an additional $4,000 per year. So if you don't do that for 2 years, now the general fund is subsidizing $8,000. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
kind of compounds, and so you just about need to increase some prices, maybe not every year, but you know, a nickel is like $1 a month, less than $1, you know, 20 meals would be $1 a month, so it's not a huge amount for the full price.
How have we been doing as far as capturing the outstanding bills?
Well, we were doing a little better until March 16th, so, and now we haven't seen much coming in.
What percentage is outstanding still?
Oh, I don't know. Right now, I don't know what the balance is for outstanding.
I don't have it in front of me either, but when you say a percentage of what, of
The percentage of the whole, or
the year, or for the last 10 years,
or just the money amount? How much are we out right now?
I don't have a report in front of me right now, but we really don't have a, good way of collecting it. I mean, we do try, we make phone calls, there's emails, there's,
Turn it over to collections.
right, we send to collections, we do, what we can, but,
Yeah,
um,
I just know this has been an ongoing thing where general fund has been being tapped to pay for those.
Yeah, and I think I share with you folks the idea that we agreed to pay K through 3 for breakfast, right? And so we don't mind supplementing from general fund for that amount, correct?
Correct.
I
Yes.
mean, so.
that's about, in 2018-19, that was about $7,000. The reason I'm using 18-19 numbers instead of 19-20 is because we didn't have a regular food service program in March, April, and May, so it's, it's kind of hard to tell, so that's why I'm looking at 2 years.
And to be quite honest with you, March, April, May, we're fine. That, nobody paid for meals then,
No.
so. And we got approximately $4.22.9 per meal, per lunch.
Lunch.
Yeah.
So we got a cushion.
What's that?
Paid for breakfast.
Well, last year, I wouldn't put a lot on this, but I think last year our food service outstanding debt was in the neighborhood of $30,000. And
But that
we'll
was-
go through, we haven't had time this year to go through, we'll write some of that debt off. We
That
just
wasn't
have to.
just for last year.
What's that?
That wasn't just for last year.
No,
That
I
was
meant that's the balance.
from,
And we carry uncollectibles, so we create in our system what's called uncollectibles, right? That's what we call them.
well, ones that we've sent to collections.
So
But
we have
eventually
some,
they write them off too. They'll only try to collect for so long and then,
when we turn them over to collections, we're getting pennies on the dollar. So,
If that at all.
yeah, we won't, in some cases, we'll never see any of it.
and when it's at collections, we get, I think, 65 cents on the dollar. I think it is.
We, yeah, but we're not, I don't think any of us are saying we can deny a kid a meal. So
Yes.
it's a balancing act.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the food service prices for the 2020-2021 school year. Any other questions or discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is a resolution relating to the election of school board members and calling this school district general election. So this is something we have to do to, for this fall's election.
Correct, to host a general election for our open positions. We'll have 4 of them.
We'll have 4.
Correct.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the resolution relating to the election of school board members and calling the school district general election?
that motion.
Okay. There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. There's a motion and a second, any other discussion? Since this is a resolution, we will do by roll call vote. Start with Mr. Corner.
Jeremy Corner, yes.
Amanda Lisi, yes.
Sharon Rupp, yes.
Sonia Peterson, yes.
Jeremy LeBlanc, yes.
Ron Winter, yes.
Motion carries. Next item is resolution establishing dates for filing affidavits of candidacy. I believe those will be published following this resolution. So is there a motion to approve the resolution establishing dates for filing affidavits of candidacy?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the resolution will take another roll call vote. Mr. Corner?
Jeremy Corner, yes.
Amanda Lisi, yes.
Sharon Rupp, yes.
Sonia Peterson, yes.
Jeremy LeBlanc, yes.
Ron Winter, yes.
Motion carries. Next item is 9.9, approval of Wyoming Middle High School Student Handbook. I understand that there were some changes that were made, and now they're being moved back to where they were.
Yep, so there are no changes from last year.
There are no changes from last
We
year.
proposed the attendance to
Okay.
decrease that, and we'll have to go and return it back, so we did. The only update is the update of the name of Sue Bones Peterson, just Sue Peterson
Okay.
Bones, excuse me, for the social work position.
As a social worker, okay. Sounds good. Is there a motion to approve the Wyoming Middle High School Student Handbook for 2020-2021 school year?
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries. Item 9.1, designate Rich Schneider, Superintendent, as identified official with authority, the Iowa, and Denise Strike as the Iowa to add and remove names only from the MDE External User Access Recertification System. This is something we need to approve every year to make these designations. So is there a motion to designate Rich and Denise as the identified official with authority?
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 9.11, approval of OPEB transfer between funds. This is something, again, we do every year. So is there a motion to approve the OPEB transfer between funds?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, there's a motion and a second, is there a second? Amanda
A second,
seconds?
yeah.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 9.12, approval of agreements with Prairie 5 Head Start. This is just another annual renewal?
Correct.
Any changes?
Head Start uses one of our classrooms,
Okay.
so this is an agreement,
Okay.
the parameters of that agreement.
Is there a motion to approve the agreement with Prairie 5 Head Start for the 2020-2021 school year?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 9.13, resolution approving the 10-year long-term facility maintenance plan and authorizing the district's application for fiscal year 2022.
Okay, so that, just a little heads up, that doesn't commit us to any of that. The best way to explain this is, this kind of provides rationale to our legislature that we have needs for those expense. A little bit more accurate in the beginning than it is at the end. So we just kind of take for the following year, this coming year, it's pretty well set, and the following year, we can then move what wasn't approved this year into that following year, and that can change.
So by approving it, it's not necessarily, it's flexible.
Correct.
And I'm thinking these have all gone through building and grounds?
The 10-year LTFM has not.
Has not?
No.
2020 and 2021 are based on the 10-year report, are the amounts that were approved in budget by the board.
Sure.
So for 2021, the amounts there for, what was approved last month for the budget. The last 9 years are based on, like Rich said, some of the projects that weren't approved for 2021, we may have moved them down the road 1 year or 2 years. And then there are other things that you look at, you look at possibly down the road, will you need a roof? Will you, some of those kinds of things. Nothing is written in stone for the next 9 years. In other words, these are estimates, they're possible projects, that way. So every year this will change, and so again, like Rich said, the first couple of years are more accurate than probably what it will be, because our needs are always changing, our building needs, so. But it is something that's required by MDE, by the state, in order for us to levy the funds in this coming fall. And the reason it says fiscal year 22 is because we levy in fall of 20, which we collect the taxes in the year 21, which is for fiscal year 22.
Understood. Thank you. So is there?
Just to give you an idea too, so for this past fiscal year, we carried over a balance of about 85,000, and then, is that right?
Yep, from June 30,
19.
2019.
Yeah, and then we'll carry over a balance of approximately 107,588. And that's just LTFM, that's not capital outlay.
Okay.
And you are allowed to carry a balance, because for some of those bigger projects that you might need to do later, and actually if need be, if you had a big project that you absolutely needed to do, you actually can run the fund balance in the red too, and collect the funds in future years.
So in that case, you'd be borrowing from the general fund.
Right, which we do not, haven't had to do and don't anticipate doing, but you are allowed to do.
Okay.
If we had to maintain our buildings by capital outlay, we wouldn't have as nice buildings as we have, I can tell you that, so.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the resolution of the 10-year long-term facility maintenance plan and authorizing the district's application for fiscal year 2022?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 9.14, recognition of donations received for 2019 to 2020 school year.
And those are donations of at least 500. Those had to be listed. We did list other ones that we had good track of, so. It's great that we have so many organizations and individuals that are willing to donate.
It takes a village, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So there's a motion to recognize motion in recognition of donations received for 2019-2021 school year.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item, 9.15, approval of distance learning plans.
So what we've attached there is we've attached a copy of both BREs and the middle school, high school distance learning plan. Feedback was taken from staff members in developing these plans. So I guess I think that it'd be nice to close the door on one of them so that when I come back to you in August, I'm only presenting two, an in-person and a distance, or a hybrid one. But now is your time to entertain and ask questions about that, about each of these plans, and express any concerns you have.
What's the background for the plans that we have? Was some of this developed out of what we learned plus what we got back in surveys?
Correct, yep, and each of the staff members have discussed these with their faculty, their staff members. So maybe you two folks want to kind of address how you collected information?
So Bert's, and you can kind of see the pink is things that I'm recommending we remove, and the gray are things that through staff meetings and staff input, we would like to add. The rest of this document is what we used in the spring for distance learning. And then since that time, towards the end of the school year, we did a lot of reflection and gathering information on, okay, what did work? What did work? Feedback from parents, paras, certified. And so, you know, like even this spring, I look at this as it does change. You know, there were things as MDE came out with a new requirement, we would add it. You know, when distance learning started in March, they had a pretty bare bones list of requirements, and then they would add things. And so as they did that, we would go in and add ours that fit that category. That's kind of what this is too. So everything that's not highlighted are things that actually were in place this spring.
And we did the same thing. We had part of our exit for our staff, it was to get all of their input, what worked, what didn't work. Lisa and I both shared a survey with our staff about, from the Lakes Area Service Club, talking about different areas that worked onto it. Unfortunately, we can't meet them all, but we could kind of get the general sense of what staff said. The main thing was making sure we had some type of schedule. Most schools, and we had something too where we did the asynchronous learning, where we allow kids to come on wherever they wanted to. Worked for some, didn't work for others. What they really wanted was structure, and that's kind of what our plan really looked at, is to develop a structure of a plan to say, okay, our classes are going to be this time, please be live, not only to deliver instruction, to be able to record it, but also that human element that we heard a lot from our students, and definitely from our teachers, is having that relationship on there. The Go Guardian technology will help quite a bit to be able to keep kids on task when we are there. But in it all, the number one thing is let's get them back in. So, and then no plan is perfect, but we feel that the structure and time will be a lot better into it. And then as in there too, like I said, we've learned a lot. Some of that too is working, like Rich said, the economic disadvantage, the minority groups, but also with our special ed. We need to be better in those areas too, developing our plans and that stuff. So once we get our staff back in, we will narrow down to make sure that we have that in. So that was quite an experiment.
So I noticed like for the middle school, high school, you're planning on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday. What about Fridays?
Friday, right now, we had looked at it as kind of a way for us to reach out to kids who are struggling. and to also look at some planning time, just because so much of it will be, again, creating new content to go on to that. So that'll be something, once we get back into it a little more. You know, in the document, it does say, how do we make sure we keep our hours? And I think that will be big, because as we know, we have to have over 1,020 hours for the high school kids. It's not perfect, but it will be able to tweak that into it. If that's one of the things that comes in, then more than likely we'll add Fridays in to do it, and to do, the biggest thing we heard back, multiple classes, 7 classes in a day can be too much. So to be able to maybe look at a rotating schedule or an alternating block schedule, and talking with the schools that went that way this year, they saw a lot of success with it, because the kids were able to focus on 4 classes during the daytime rather than the 7 different classes. So,
Okay, is there a motion to approve the distance learning plans for BRE and Ilmar's East Middle School, High School?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Now we'll get to item 9.16. Is to approve the altering of staff duty days for the I'm gonna read this right, 2020-2021 school year, of up to 2 days. Okay. Is there a motion to approve altering the staff duty day schedule for next year? To 2 days.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Exactly what you said.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next, item 9.17 is to add a certified staff member and authorize hiring of a distance learning coordinator. Is that a good title? Do you want to?
Yeah. that'd be
Okay.
good.
Could you repeat that, Sharon?
Yep. So we'll want a motion to add a certified staff member and authorize hiring of a distance learning coordinator. Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion to hire the distance learning coordinator with the assumption that we will get the grant to cover it.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. There's a motion to add a certified staff member on,
Yeah, we won't get the grant approved for a long time.
before.
Until after the process is done,
You
correct?
see what I mean? I understand what you're saying. We can't take it out of what we have for our current kitty, but.
We're already battling that every time we go to negotiate. I don't disagree with needing the position, I just don't, I don't like, kinda setting that up for, without having that money in place.
I think that money's going to be there.
Yeah.
It's not that it's not there. We just need to
Well, it's
apply for
already
it.
in the,
It is.
it's already, that's
It's already
the
earmarked
funding
for us.
allocation spot, it's there. We just have to do the paperwork, and I'm sure with the way that's worded, if the grant is not worded correctly, it'll come back to us. And we'll have to rectify it. That's how they do it for title anyway.
Is it one of those situations where you have to pay it and then you get reimbursed?
Well, that's always how federal government works.
Gotcha.
Yeah, federal fund is always that way.
It's always that way.
Could you
Yeah, we
change it?
just
So-
had this conversation today or Thursday about QZAPs. Yeah. Today.
Yeah.
We don't have our money.
Could you
for
modify that
QZAPs.
with the requirement that we apply for the grant to cover it?
I could,
Or to use those grants.
I just don't want this to come back. I mean, we're already, you guys know from the negotiations part where we're at. We're already over, and now we're gonna add somebody without having the funds that are actually there. I don't disagree that, I think we'll get them. It's just, looks bad that we're spending the money without having it.
Well, and remember, our negotiations were based upon that set of data at that time.
That has
And we've
changed
now
in 6
made
months.
other hires, and I don't know how that's gonna impact it. Unfortunately, our budget isn't real time,
Mhm.
nor is negotiations.
The other thing too about the application, and this is something new for us, so totally don't know all the rules and regulations, but, okay, so we have 139,000, we don't know exactly what we're going to be applying for to make up that 139,000. And so I don't know that we can apply for whatever, 50,000 now and, 50,000 later, and, might have to be like one application. So,
Yeah, you're the only one that watched the webinar, I did not.
yeah, well, they didn't really talk about that I recall,
Okay.
but, yeah, I mean, the allocation is there, and as, like Rich said, as long as it's, the expenses that you are, putting out are COVID related, I don't think that it's going to be a problem. I mean, it's not unlike the title application where, Lisa goes in and puts in what we're going to be spending on title, and they may look at it and, like Rich said, may have to tweak it, but as long as they're COVID-related expenses that we have, that we wouldn't normally have, I don't think that there's going to be a problem with it, with getting the funding.
We're gonna have to incur expenses to receive the grant.
Yeah.
How is this position, how is it gonna help our staff? You see it helping our staff?
Why, I definitely see it helping our staff. I almost see that it's crucial, essential, however you wanna say it, for it to work. If we have to provide distance learning, if that's, like I said, if it's only 10 students, granted, that's 10 students we have to serve. Okay, so let's do the math this way. If a student unenrolls and goes to homeschool, we are losing all of their adjusted pupil units. One pupil unit is approximately, just for round numbers, $10,000. 10 students that we could lose because we don't support them in distance learning and they go to homeschool instead. My South Dakota math says that's $100,000. That would be lost in revenue. Loss in revenue. That doesn't mean that beings are here, we're getting that revenue. We're anticipating that's going to be a revenue for this year. So we also have to, and I think we all agree, it's like the marketing thing, we have to make sure we don't lose enrollment. And this could help with that.
And it's to help the students.
Yeah.
Students as
Well,
well as
it-
parents.
of course it
It's not
is,
just to
but
alleviate work for the
the better our
staff.
teachers work, the better our students learn.
Well, it's only gonna help the teachers, not only through this, it's gonna help them years down the road
Correct.
with
We get a
technology.
vaccine in January, we're still, and there's no way we're having a vaccine in January.
Yeah. But I mean, it's gonna help them with technology in the classroom as well.
Correct. And that's the person we would look at. It's gotta be somebody that has that skill set, otherwise we won't hire.
Mhm.
This is not a at all costs hire. We can't do that.
Mhm.
I just wanna make sure that the person that we're bringing on is gonna be not only a huge help for the students, parents, but it sounds like they're gonna be a huge help for the teachers too. So we're adding a staff member that's gonna really help, you know, the teachers too.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I forego that last part.
Okay, so your motion is to add certified staff member and authorize hiring of a distance learning coordinator.
Correct.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No,
Motion carries.
I'll keep you folks in the loop about it too, so.
Next item is policy update. Approval of facilities use agreement. It looks like there's additional updated fees on there.
Correct, that,
The use
we
of
changed the
facilities.
custodial and cook fees on it.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the facilities use agreement?
Is this the new price?
Yeah,
What's on there highlighted in yellow?
I think so.
Okay.
Did I not include the right one?
No, you highlighted in yellow. I was just curious what they were before.
Yeah, I'm assuming they were 20 and 10.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the facilities use agreement?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is acceptable use, our one-to-one acceptable use policy. And that's out on board book.
Is anybody else having problems with the loading of the document?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I never got the last one.
they're not loading all of them. Some of them do, but not all of them.
Maybe
Wait,
how many?
So like, when you click on, what happens? Oh, it's
It
just
spins.
spinning.
It says loading.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it's like this.
Oh. So I thought that was just me.
I was thinking it was me, so yep.
Well, when I was looking at it this
See if you
weekend or
have-
Friday, when I sent it back out, I had the same problem.
So what is this?
Supposed to look like.
Can we-
This
can
is
we
policy
hear something
handbook.
on
This
it?
is-
This is
Bet.
the
So this is the acceptable use policy that we approved last year, and here's the changes, so Ryan, you keep me in line here with that. We added a statement, 6.5, that says that the Chromebook is damaged by an act of purposely destroying or damaging school property. It must be reported to the schools, to the district staff as soon as possible. The repair will be processed as quickly as possible, but no loaner will be provided. So if a student intentionally damages their device, they will not get a loaner. Student discipline will be administered to the student in accordance with the existing school policies. All costs associated with the repairing and replacing the damaged Chromebook will be the responsibility of the student, and family insurance policies will not be in effect. So if you intentionally damage your Chromebook, you cannot then claim it as an insurance item. So that's one item,
Is that different than last year? Was that added
correct,
from last year?
with further clarification on it.
It just clarifies the, you know, as you go through it, we learned a few things about, okay, if a kid comes in
Sure.
and intentionally smashes it, and then we give them one right away, is we wanna make sure that we have that parent meeting and everything first before we hand out a brand new device two of them.
Right,
So
that makes sense.
last year, we were
Good
pretty
idea.
fortunate, we had some Chromebooks that still work but are severely outdated, those were the first ones that handed out. So this is a recommendation from Darren, it's just kind of a clarification of how we go through the process of doing it, so.
And you had some that were intentionally smashed.
There was some good stories. Overall in it, our Chromebook, as far as the first year, as far as the kids taken care of, they look really good.
Okay.
Are some kids gonna be kids where we found gum and melted chocolate and broken devices and screen? Yes, there were some of them, but not very many of them.
Would that be considered intentional?
Correct. I mean, this is something where you physically see it, where they throw it.
But I mean, the gum and the chocolate.
Correct, that's, yeah, they have something in here too that Rich will share, 6.6.5.
Yeah.
They talked about looking at stickers, residue, coloring and some of that stuff that they decorate on there.
Yeah.
Would be underneath that, so.
So the next change was, I'm sorry, I
Well,
hope
I was just gonna say, how are you going to identify the intentionals? What do you got in mind? So that it doesn't turn into a,
That is a
Prove
hard,
it.
honestly, it's a hard thing to prove.
yeah.
But if you see it on a camera,
But if you see it where,
a kid throwing it,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I had happen down at Blue Earth area. I had a kid have a temper tantrum
Yeah.
and just threw the, yeah, you're paying for it.
Okay. I was more thinking like away from the school cameras.
Yeah.
that's
How are
gonna be
you ever
hard one
gonna
to prove. That will be very hard to prove, so
Okay.
we'll side with the item insurance on that and make the claim and then to do that. But yeah, when you see them, let's go on hearing stories, yeah, kids start dropping them, they start chucking
Yeah.
them, they start doing that, and then that's kind of more of what it's intended
Yeah,
to do.
no, I get that. I was just curious how you
Yeah.
avoided getting into prove it that I broke it on purpose.
No, that'll be a hard one to back up.
Did you get them all returned?
We have right now, I believe, 2 out.
Okay.
So we're currently working with the families and that type of stuff to get them back.
Mhm.
But as far as that, everyone else came back into it. So the biggest thing is to make sure that we had the right chargers with the right Chromebooks and to get everything in. So when we brought them all back in, we checked them in to make sure they turned it. And then at the end, Chelsea Herneman, who was a summer hire this year in the tech department, went through them all. And there are just, the main thing of all that we're missing chargers. So kids didn't return their chargers, we've sent out, notified all the parents about what they're missing, and then put them on a fine sheet, but I believe right now we have 2 that are currently out, and we know where they're at. So all of them with Go Guardian have been disabled, so the minute they crack on, the department will get a notification, and on their screen, it will say, please return to the middle school, high school as soon as possible. So,
Well, that's not so bad for the first year, really.
And not being here.
Yeah.
overall, they came
Yeah.
back pretty well, so.
So then the next change is the case. It was listed at $35, but the actual cost is $25. And then, as he said, we added the device cleanup at $30 plus. Now, if we're in person, when those devices come back to us, we can say to the student, hey, clean this up, otherwise you're gonna have to pay for it.
Right. Can I ask one more question? Mrs. Hanson, how about you? With the, was it just 4th, 5th graders that had it? How, did you get all of them returned and?
We had one that left the state with a family and we've not been able to recover that. And one broken screen that was not intentional.
So that, again, is
I was
not
super
bad
impressed with
for that
that.
age?
Yes.
Good to know.
Well, one thing,
Thank you.
just as a side note too, we'll look at 3rd graders for this coming year if we have to go distance learning. All right. And then I believe the only other significant change is the addition of the word on the back page. It says, when the parents, student and parent sign the agreement, it says, yes, I want the available. We added the word non-refundable insurance policy because we had people leave at semester time and they wanted their balance back, so. Well,
So do we have a motion on this?
I don't believe so.
No.
I don't believe so.
I just went through it because it
Yep.
wasn't.
So is there a motion to approve the one-to-one acceptable use policy for the 2020-2021 school year?
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second, any other discussion?
Is there still the option to go no insurance, Mr. Earl? Yes. Okay. Yep. I'm waiting for it to load, it's still doing its thing. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.
Yeah, it says right below here, no, I choose not to pay the fee. Understand that we are responsible for all repairs. And the device cannot leave the middle school, high school.
Right. Thought so. Mine went load, so. Good.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 11 is our discussion items, and we have one discussion item is our board vacancy. Couple things about this discussion, I'll just begin the discussion with, is that we've got 2 people interested for 1 vacancy. We do not necessarily have to fill the vacancy. If we decide, or if someone decides that they do want to, what was the word we select? Or what was the word we chose? Select one of these, persons, then we would need to have a motion to put this to an action item, and then vote on that action item. Okay, we're getting good at that.
Yes, we are. So,
So anyone else want to start off the discussion?
was everybody able to pull up the letters that the 2 candidates submitted?
Otherwise I can read them too.
Mine finally opened. Sharon, could you pull them up?
Yep.
I feel like we should pick a candidate since we're kind of to fill that position, since we're kind of split right now.
It's good to have an odd number. And there are advantages to that.
So, what do you need from us again, Sharon?
Well, right now, it's just a discussion item. So if we want to, select one of these 2, we would need to have a, motion to move this to an action item to select one of these.
So
That make sense?
if we would select somebody, they would fill the term until January?
Right. Sue's term expired this year, this was her last year. So there would be an opening, her opening would be in January regardless,
So it'd be effectively through December then?
yes. So we could appoint them now, and then they would join us August, September, October, November, December.
I guess it's only 6 months. Do we see a need to fill it in that short a time?
We have a lot ahead of us, I think, yeah, I think it's a good thing.
I agree, I just see a lot of split votes. And that would be a tiebreaker if we had a 7th.
Yeah, it was an advantage to have
Yes.
an odd number,
Yep.
yep, a 7.
I guess I don't see us as having a lot of split votes. There hasn't been too many of them. But if there were one, what happens to the tie? Is a tie vote to no vote? Is that how that works?
That's correct.
think
You
so.
don't reach a majority. You have to have 50% plus one.
Have you talked to each candidate or who's requesting?
Yes, I have.
Is there intent to both rerun in November?
I believe so.
I just feel like if we have people showing interest now, we should try to get them on and give them a little taste of what the board is like, or, you know, if they're interested come November as well. Which I was mentioning that last month too, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, both of them have, by showing interest, I think it's,
That means something alone.
yeah, yeah.
So can we make this an action item to make it a motion, to move it to an action item? Is that what we need again,
Yeah,
Sharon?
yeah, that's what we need to get started.
I will make a motion.
To move
this,
this,
to move it to an action item?
the selection of,
Candidates?
Yes.
To an action item? Yes.
okay.
I
There's a
will
motion.
second that.
So motion and a second. Any other discussion? Now we're just moving it to an action item. Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. So we'll move that to an action item at this point, because I believe this was our last item. So we can move this to 11.2.
Sure.
Make that 11.2 to, select a board member candidate. Okay, so we've got two candidates in front of us. Discussion about who to select, who to offer this to. You know, Dawn's got experience. Steven, is he Steve or Steven? Steve? Steve, okay. You know, he's certainly got the desire, and we need that too. Both have students in school.
I think it's nice that we have a new community member looking to be on the board.
Yep.
Steve. Like you said, Don's got experience too, so I recognize that. But
Mhm. And we just mentioned there are 4 openings this coming year. This is a tough one. Thank you for moving it to an action item.
Yes. Now can.
That's why we're here, is to make a
Right.
tough decision.
have any of these candidates reached out to any of you other board members? They have not to me.
Just the letters of interest to me.
Yeah, I've got
I've
a
done.
phone call from Steve just expressing his interest in it. Just from my years of being around him, I know he's got a huge interest in the best interest for kids. He's got a head for finance, budget. You know, he's able to look at the big picture and look at what the decisions that'll be made are the best for the district. Not to say that Dawn doesn't, because I also served with Dawn, she was very good about that too. Jerome had mentioned somebody new coming in, I think is good. I think it would be a plus. But he did reach out and talk to me and just asked me, you know, kind of what am I getting into if I throw my name in there? So, you know, pretty much the same questions I had when I
Yeah,
said it.
we all did.
Yeah. And he definitely expressed interest in running later for full-time, so.
Any other comments? With the, I completely agree, it's always good to have, fresh eyes, new blood, however you wanna word it. I think with some of these decisions we've got coming up, with the distance learning, is it the benefit then to keep someone who has experience and knows the board and knows the school runnings and,
That's what I was thinking too.
for 5 months?
Yep.
Is that a more of an advantage? At this time, with all of these changes that need to be made and, to have somebody that knows where we've been to see where we can go but I do like the thought of new eyes too, but.
So do we do a yes, no vote for each of them, or how do we do?
We make a
I
motion?
think you can do it either way, but the best way, so everybody knows where you're at, is you make a motion.
Make a motion and then vote on that person to select that person.
I think that's the clearest,
Okay.
but there is no proper way to do it. There is no dictated way. Just so we can clearly understand what people are voting for is the key.
I'll make a motion to vote Don Odegaard back into the board for the remainder of Sue Bone's term.
Okay.
I will second that.
So the motion is to select Don Odegaard to fill that vacant position.
Correct.
That vacant board position. Okay. And Amanda second. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in, hearing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
There, we're split.
This is why.
Yep. Yep. We don't have to choose someone, that's our other alternative. And we can
Well, I don't.
deal with 6.
Without having
for the end of the
50
year.
plus one, do we have a choice? It's
Yeah.
split.
Yep.
Correct? You're at a stalemate, because if you didn't vote for them, for her,
So the motion is a tie, so it does not pass.
there's only one other way you can approach it.
Yep.
Somebody make a motion in the contrary and
Yeah.
see if somebody changes.
Well, I'll make a motion to fulfill the remaining term left by Sue Bones for Steve Johnson.
Okay,
I'll second that.
there's a motion and a second
Jeremy, what was his last
for
name?
Ron.
Johnson.
Thank you.
Any other, there's a motion and a second, any discussion?
I guess the only thing that I'm thinking about is, we know how hard it is to get people to join the board. And we don't wanna take anything away from anybody at this time. But I think it's nice to see somebody that hasn't been a part of our board that would be willing to, I don't wanna say help us out in this time, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but
But yet, if he doesn't get in now, the chances of him, being voted in November at the election, if he's, would plan on running again, running in November.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, the last thing I'd wanna do, and I would hope that this wouldn't make them shy away from doing it. I mean, we all know how hard it is to get people on. I'm just throwing that out there.
That's true, we've been very fortunate to, be able to get enough candidates to run.
barely.
You know, we are fortunate that way.
Yeah, I think they're both good candidates in my mind, but I think what steers me is I really like the idea of having a candidate who's got fresh ideas. We have a lot of varying challenges that are ahead of us in the next couple of years, or even in the next 6 months. And I think that fresh ideas are valuable. That's my only reason.
Is now the time for fresh eyes, or is now the time for
That's why I'm thinking
experience?
experience would be good.
No, I think now's the time for fresh eyes. I do. Now's the time to be thinking outside the box.
What was that?
So now's the time to be thinking outside the box, and I think there's fresh ideas that could help them.
I remember too, when I was on the board, I was told, give yourself a year. You won't really know a lot. I mean, I still learn, but you won't know everything until you've been through that first full year, and then you've been through every season and every discussion, beginning to end. Is now the time to train somebody in with all the changes we've got between now and
I was just
The
thinking
end
to
of the
that
year.
point, that's a very good point, in that this gives, Dawn's been on the board, she's a veteran at this, she knows it. This will give an opportunity for someone that's never seen this, basically try it out and go, this is for me, this isn't for me. You know, they're not locked into a 4-year term. They're in for the next, what do we say, 4 months?
6.
6 months. So I was thinking November for some reason.
Yeah.
If
It's
you
another way
select
to look
someone
at it.
tonight, they cannot be appointed for 30 days because a person has 30 days to file a petition to oppose that appointment. So that means they would not begin serving until September.
Whole September, okay.
That's just, it's 30 days and we just don't have 30 days between now and our scheduled August board meeting.
So it's really 4 months.
September, October, November, December. 4 months. So there's a motion, right? And a second to appoint or to select. No, I want to say appoint.
You can say appoint.
Select.
Point is fine.
Select Stephen Johnson to fulfill the remaining of the vacated school board seat. Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
No. So we're still tied. So. Yeah.
We won't fill a vacancy. Unless you have a different way you want it handled in August.
What other way is it?
Interviews,
Yeah.
questionnaires. Kind of what we-
I kind of wish we would have been able to have them here.
Well, we can, but not tonight.
Not tonight.
So if we had a questionnaire, we would have to come up with a set of questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I put this meeting,
We'll get you right
not
on
me.
that.
I'm not board
So superintendents, we just don't weigh in on anything related to filling a vacancy in the board, other than to tell you the legal side of it, so. I could,
And by the time we do all that, it's gonna be November. I'm just hoping that we don't have these kind of votes again until,
Right.
until January, or, because this makes it hard when we're split like this. But I don't think any one of us wanna budge, so.
You know, for the sake of the board, you know, I would be, but, you know, you balance the, you know, the desire to have 7 people with differing opinions versus just 6, and then we end up like this. And I know we've gotta have decisions made, and we can't end up like this. You know what I'm saying? But- Anybody have any other thought? Do we wanna revisit this in next month? So if we can't come to a decision tonight, you know, majority decision, do we wanna think about it a month and,
If we decide in August, is there enough time for them to still be here in September? 30 days?
30 days?
Well, when I say, if you pick someone tonight, they can be here, they just can't vote. They would be a member of the audience,
What are the
public.
dates of the August board meeting versus the September board meeting? Is there 30 days between that?
That's what I'm asking.
I did
Yeah.
not calculate that. August
There might
10th to, somebody have a calendar?
There might
Yeah,
be.
August 10th through to September, well, it'll be the 14th, because the 7th is Labor Day. The first Monday. We're always the second Monday anyway, aren't we?
Yeah, so there would
Sorry.
be more than 30 days between August and September.
There would be?
Just 30
August
days.
10th to September 14th.
Yep.
Cause there's 31,
So you
31 days.
do anything until the August board meeting, and you could theoretically still start in September.
So you could choose somebody in August, approve them, have the 30-day petition opportunity, and then they could be appointed right away in September, and serve September, October, November, and December. 4 months.
That's an option. I like that option. Sure.
Could we give them a questionnaire that we could use to help consider?
And then review that next month? Okay. Yeah, that would be an option. Okay.
Maybe the two of you can
Yep.
kind of develop that, and we'll
Sure.
distribute it to them.
You might be able to find some suggestions online
Yeah.
or at MSBA or something.
Or we can ask
From
the
that
candidates too,
video.
if they're even gonna be interested in this, or if they wanna wait till November, you know what I mean? If they
Yeah.
still wanna keep going,
Yeah.
you know, knowing. Okay, yeah.
And I think too, you know, having a interested public is important too.
Oh, I know.
So if the other person shows interest in the public, whoever it is, that's important too.
And I don't wanna dissuade them by not. I wish we could have a both, but I don't get.
Every other
Because
month.
I feel like I'm dissuading both of them now by not.
I guess I'd like to hear from both. I think that could help me one way or the other.
Okay, we can, put this on for discussion again next month?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, table.
Item number 12, correspondence, moving on. I didn't see anything under there. Upcoming events. Our next board meeting is August 10th, 6 p.m. And at this time, I'm gonna close the meeting for executive session to discuss
We should
strategy.
take a 10-minute recess so she can get things signed.
Okay.
We can
Okay.
use the restroom,
Yep.
and then we will start. The
Take-
recording will end as soon as I get up.
Okay, we'll take a 10-minute recess and then resume to discuss strategy as it relates to employee negotiations. And there will be no formal actions after that closed session.